Jaws. It's not just that movie you say you watched because, well, it's Jaws, and who can call themselves a film nerd without having seen Jaws? No. No, it's also your Corona survival guide. That's right. The 1975 Speilberg classic can be viewed as a cautionary tale for what to do and what not to do in a time of mass panic, along with also dropping some shocking predictions for these trying times. So, buckle up, grab your isolation buddy, and get a bigger boat, because we're about to settle in to eat a big shark pie whilst analysing several bizarre ways Jaws warned us about Corona.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
I'm CJ Simon, and this is Mindless Folly Productions. Because you've clearly seen it, I won't do a summary of the... What? We can't risk alienating it. But come on, it's Spielberg. This is a channel about... Okay. Jaws follows Officer Brody, family man, protector of the people, sexy beast, as he comes to terms with the fact that a shark is hunting the shores of Amity Island, where he is the sheriff. We see how panic forms in the people of Amity as the mass murderer Ronald DeFeo Jr. eats their women and children. Sorry, wrong movie. Just move on. As the mass murdering shark eats their women and children. Soon Officer Brody, a scientist named Hooper, and Captain Ahab track down Bruce. Really? Bruce? The shark's named Bruce? Okay. Track down Bruce and blow him up, but only after the Great White kills Captain Ahab. We all caught up? Good. So, how does Jaws warn us about Corona? Number 1. If you fuck, you're out of luck. That's right, my fellow dwellers, Jaws predicted isolation and celibacy as the solution to all our problems. Keeping to horror movie tradition, the first victim of a shark attack is, as the poster suggests, a busty blonde teen. She's eaten after attempting to entice a young man into coital frolicking in the sands, or whatever it is that young people did those days. It's a message of, if you partake in unmarital sex, then you will face the consequences. Can't be a horror movie without those Catholic undertones.
And Eve was weak. Say it.
No, Mama!
Eve was weak.
No!
Eve was weak.
No!
Eve was weak. Say it.
No,
woman.
Mama!
Say it.
Eve was weak! Eve was weak!
How does this relate to Corona, you may ask? Well, all you isolation and chill people should watch Jaws before grabbing that next condom, and I do hope at the very least you are grabbing a condom. Like, sex for the next 9 months should really look more like this. Jaws, it's a parable stating that human contact which is not mandated by institutions such as the church or the government, that's harmful. In Jaws, it's you get eaten by a shark named Bruce, and in the real world, it's you catch a case of the deadly flu, COVID-19. I mean, the advice given by Prime Minister Johnson and the advice given from college celibacy are essentially the same.
So remember, the next time you're feeling hot and heavy,
just say no to sex.
If your friends ask you to meet, you should say no.
The argument made by the movie is that if this young teen could have resisted the enticement of a good old Netflix and chill, then maybe she'd still be living. For Spielberg and now for the UK government, the solution is to...
No whistles!
Everybody, please, get out of the water. Everybody out of the water.
Get out of the water! Where water in this analogy is large groups in the real world. It's a bit confusing, I know, but the reaction is the same, where the government is legislating where we can go and what we can do for our own safety. Stay indoors, which, I mean, people aren't listening to. Do you remember what happened to little Timmy? Stay indoors. 2. The government. Boris. Okay, if if ever there were a time to quote Stormzy, this feels like the one and only appropriate time to do so. We agree that isolation is helpful, right? Everyone on board? We've all seen those graphs that show that when one person isolates, it saves dozens and that saves hundreds, and we're glad that our government realizes that. Agreed? Agreed? Sorry, I've been watching a lot of Dora the Explorer recently. Isolation's hard, man. Well, much like closing the streets of London was the correct response in the time of COVID-19, so was closing the beaches in Jaws. Now, let's play a game. In 2006, who in the Jaws cast did Boris Johnson say was his hero? A. Brody. B. Hooper. C. Quint. D. The Mayor. E. Bruce. Or F. This dead body. Results are in. Ding, 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 ding. That is right. Johnson said, and I quote, the real hero of Jaws is the Mayor. This guy. This guy. This guy right here, this guy who fought so hard to endanger the lives of people of Amity, this guy who makes the architects of the Death Star and its sequels look like they cared about safety. We need more politicians like that, is Johnson's statement. Johnson said that he would keep the beaches open if he were mayor. Did Speilberg know that the 11-year-old Boris Johnson would one day become leader of the UK? Or is it more sinister? Did watching Jaws as a young age influence the poor child's mind? I say this because whilst the rest of the world was on lockdown, Prime Minister Boris Johnson wanted Britain to just slump down and get the virus, or keep the beaches open and see what happened. It was a theory of herd immunity. How did that work out for you, Boris? These times are uncertain, but what we know for sure is that because of the delayed response to corona, a greater number of people will die than had to. And for what? Money. Number 3. It's all about the Benjamins, baby. A simple premise, but this is twofold. In explaining why politicians can be greedy and self-serving, Speilberg also acknowledges that the fears of the political crust are also the fears of the business crust class. Sorry, is anyone else hungry? I've had no bread for weeks. Note how it's not just the mayor who's concerned about the detrimental effects of closing the beaches, and that there are detrimental effects. In this scene, we see what I can only imagine is the whole town gathering in this little room, panicking. It's a scene out of my local nursing home when all the seniors run out of rich tea biscuits. And why? Why are they all scared? Because fundamentally, the shark can represent anything, depending on your political persuasion. If you're a right-wing person, then the shark is a foreigner coming in and feeding off you and your economy. Or maybe it's communism, literally polluting your society with its red blood. If you're liberal, then the shark may represent the individual living under free market capitalism, living in a limitless ocean without regulation, consuming and consuming till the bubble bursts. Now, in times like today, it's very difficult not to watch it and not see the shark represent corona, no matter what your political persuasion is. But no matter what it is, the result is the same, or at least we fear the result will be the same. That this invader, be it from within or without, is going to hurt your pocket and access to resources. So many people's actions in Jaws and in the real world are motivated by money. That's why we all crowd together in panic. It's firstly the argument that a lot of decisions made at number 10 were economically inclined. Decisions like not forcing organisations, theatres, pubs to close, but rather asking them to. Asking them to close leaves it up to them and means that they aren't able to claim any insurance. No, that might hurt the pocket of Johnson's supporters on the Isle of Dogs. No, not that one, not that Isle of Dogs. Many theatres, pubs and clubs came out in anger towards the decision made by Johnson, and we'll see how they react. But I do wonder if the Mayor of Amity kept his job. Looks like they're predicting Boris 2K24, my peeps. Anyway, the fear of losing money and the fear of losing resources is exactly what all this hoarding is about. The fear that the things we have won't be there for long. Speilberg generally discusses how fear leads to acts of self-preservation which might not be helpful. And that leads to our last bit of discussion. Number 4. Stupid is as stupid does. Speilberg really predicted how you whippersnappers were going to behave in this crisis. Much like we see people ignoring the authorities and piling into boats and endangering their lives, so we also see that people during today's fight against Corona are doing essentially the same thing, and that's not following the rules. Maybe it's because we have basic drives not to listen to authority, or maybe it's because we're not being authoritated by the right government. So what did we learn today? Isolating is important. Gathering in large groups is only going to get someone hurt. Maybe our government didn't work fast enough, but they tend not to because money blinds them to the issues. Still, we should listen to them sometimes, for our own safety. And hey, look after yourself, because even in times of trouble, people tend to forget about that. And that's that. If you like that, then maybe you'll enjoy our Mindless Media podcast. It's all a part of Mindless Folly Productions. Here, we discuss the political arguments, themes, and subtext of a movie, from stuff like Jaws, to Netflix's To All the Boys I've Loved Before, and even Studio Ghibli's Spirited Away. So give it a look. Link in the description below. We'll be back soon with a new video to fill your time in isolation. You can find our social media below, our website, and our email, and everything else you need to keep up with Mindless Folly Productions. You don't understand how far a like, a comment, a subscribe goes, so please, 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 if you enjoyed this, then do all of those things. Make sure to hit that bell icon to be notified when we put up a new video and more content. I've been CJ Simon, and this has been the Mindless Folly YouTube channel.